welcome you to the 2021 Brand Camp Virtual Conference, and I'm excited to have this conversation with Hill Harper. So Hill Harper, for those, I'm sure everybody knows, but for those who don't, he is an award-winning actor, a best-selling author, and he is on ABC's #1 television drama, The Good Doctor. So Hill, and he's also a father. So Hill, welcome, and it is great to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be on. Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Good. It's good to see you. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot to unpack, but I want to start out by just asking the question, how are you doing? Are you safe? How is your son? Because that's the foremost thing.
Yeah, I'm feeling really blessed because, my son is healthy. I'm healthy. We are back shooting and working, which is great. It's good to be back working. So I've realized how much of a blessing that is because so many of us have been out of work and displaced and still not working. And my son, actually, there's a small school that he goes to that's been meeting in person. So that's even another blessing because he's just turning 5 and he's in kindergarten, and those early years with social emotional development, being able to interact with other kids, I think is more important than the actual studies, obviously. And sitting a kindergartner in front of a screen is not anywhere near ideal. So my heart goes out to all the folks who are in that situation, and just feeling really blessed and fortunate that he's able to go to a school that's actually meeting in person.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good. And I know that you're balancing a whole lot. So it's really good to be able to hear that everything is well and that things are going well for you. And so, like, I always try to tell people, at least as it relates back to Black fathers, all I know are good Black fathers. And so it's another example. And I know we're going to dig into that, but I don't think we share enough of those kind of stories. And so I'm super excited to be able to get into that. So sure.
We definitely don't share enough of those types of stories. It's not the message that you hear. And even in our community, we kind of play into that quite often, unfortunately. And we can unpack a lot of different things about relationships between brothers and sisters in our community and how we navigate those and all of those things. But, nearly all the Black men and brothers I know who are fathers are very present, very much present, no matter what the status of their relationship status is. They're present in the lives of their children, and I couldn't be more proud to be raising a great young son, and very proud of him finding his own way as well. He's his own person, it's his own mind, and I'm just here to hopefully guide him in the ways that he wants to wherever he wants to go, no matter what. No judgment, support, and I'm very proud of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you're laying a solid foundation. So let's dig into this a little bit. So let me kind of go back a little bit. So I remember meeting you, and I'm gonna kind of date myself a little bit. I remember you coming, and you actually did a book signing in the Detroit area. It was at Borders. So we know that was a minute ago because Borders is no longer open. I remember waiting in line. I said, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna be the last person in line. I'm gonna talk to Hill, and so I would also say that you were very gracious to me. You had no idea who I was. And not that I'm anybody special, but you took the time. And that's where we kind of met, and we've had a chance to just kind of stay connected. So I want to thank you for that.
Absolutely. So, yeah. It's funny how life works. Going back, the turnouts that I had in Detroit with my first book and my second book, massive. Like you said, long lines out the bookstores and all of that. And now, I have a home in Detroit. I have a business in Detroit. I feel so connected to the city. And at that point, way back then, I had no idea that I was going to invest in the city that way. But in many ways, the city embraced me so much that I've always had such a positive feeling for Detroit that spending time there and building relationships with people there has always been a part of me. And some of my best, closest friends are there. And I love the fact that I get to spend a great deal of time in the city, because the real asset of the people of Detroit are the real asset of the city of Detroit are its people. Some of the best people I know in the world are Detroiters. And it's this mix of kind of like hard scrabble underbelly urban culture mixed with kind of like a southern Midwestern charm. You know, it's like this kind of you know, and you get the best of all worlds. You get people who are extremely nice and supportive, but at the same time, you know, they can get their elbows out too to make sure they're not being taken advantage of and not being rolled over. And so there's a lot of passion. There's obviously a lot of creativity. You know, it's the original home of innovation. So there's a lot of entrepreneurial spirit there. Obviously, with Motown and then the electronic music being born out of Detroit, you know, all of that. It's just, I just love the city and I love the people.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of grit that comes out of our city, and again, like there's a lot of creative tissue. Whether
Yes.
it's Motown music, whether it's even Christian music, or you look at even stuff that you alluded to as it relates back to techno music and things like that. So a lot of great stuff. So now, you know what I'm saying, just to get a little bit into your journey. So I was doing a little bit of research. I kind of know you a little bit, and so kind of help me kind of unpack this. I wanna kind of take people through your journey. So I don't know if a lot of people know that you played football at Brown University, and I think you graduated magna cum laude. I don't know if that's okay. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Okay. And you went to law school at Harvard, and you met Barack. And so, so for people who don't know that part of you, and we only know you as a TV personality or only as an author, I would like for them just to get a little more insight about you as a person and what kind of makes you who you are today.
You know, I think what makes me who I am is the foundation that was laid for me by the folks who came before me. And my grandfathers are the two people I speak about the most. On my mother's side, there was a man they called Doc Hill. His name is Harold Hill, and he was a pharmacist in Seneca, South Carolina, very small town, about 5 or 6 miles from Clemson University in South Carolina. And during Jim Crow segregation, Piedmont Pharmacy, which he opened, it's called Piedmont Pharmacy. He would serve the Black community, and when Jim Crow segregation ended and Black folks could go to Rexall or Walgreens, which were then back in that day the CVS of the time or the Rite Aid or what have you, and they would still come to Doc Hill's pharmacy, and I
Okay.
saw him trade potatoes and chickens for pharmaceuticals for folks who couldn't afford it from our community, and just saw him be a pillar of the community. People called him Doc Hill. They had a lot of respect for him, and I got my name from him. And then on my grandfather, my father's side, he was also a physician, um, uh, uh, OBGYN, but a general practitioner in another small town in Iowa, in the Midwest, called Fort Madison, Iowa. And he ended
Mhm.
up buying and owning a farm, 88-acre farm outside of Fort
Wow.
Madison. And I would spend my summers between those two places, Seneca, South Carolina, and on the farm in Fort Madison. And that completely informed me. That's maybe why I have so much affinity for the Midwestern culture and Midwestern vibe. And you know, when I went to school, undergrad and grad school, it was all about building a foundation. I think we teach young people the complete wrong thing about education. And the reason why many young people feel disconnected from education is because we try to tell them, study this so you can do that. That's
Mhm.
wrong. That's limiting someone's options. Whether they understand it or not, psychologically or consciously, one of the most valuable things you can have in life are optionality or options, right?
Mhm.
Extremely valuable to have options. And education buys you multiple options, but we sell it to young people as if it limits your options in a way. Like, oh, if you study to be a, a physicist, if you study physics, you got to be a physicist. If you study engineering, you got to be an engineer. If you study computer science, you have to be a programmer.
Mhm.
If you study law, like I did, you have to be a
Mhm.
lawyer. It's not true. It just opens up your options. You could be a lawyer, you could be a
Mhm.
computer scientist, you could be an engineer, but you could also use those same skills and apply them to so many other areas. You don't have to do that. And so options are what's important. And I've learned that very early about building a solid foundation and foundational elements for building a life.
Yeah, and I think that's very powerful because I think one of the things that's so interesting because when I look back at the formation of the educational system in the United States, and I think about the Carnegies and the two percenters who kind of put it together, a lot of it went back to trying to make sure people could put a round peg in a round hole. And so I think that might be part of why there's so much compartmentalization of a skill set and what you're learning. But I do agree because I know like I went to school for mechanical engineering and I probably used about 5% of what I learned in terms of mechanical engineering, but it was the problem solving mindset of engineering that has served me in what I do. And life is about solving problems. And so I totally agree with you as it relates back to that. So
Absolutely. That's a great point. And beautiful thing is we're entering a brand new age with all this, obviously with virtual learning and the opportunity that you could literally teach yourself almost anything in this day and age if you have computer high-speed internet access,
mhm,
literally.
yeah,
And so ultimately, it's not about the degrees, it's about the learning, being a better critical thinker, problem solving, and all of that. That's not to say school's not important, because school is vitally important in many other ways, because you can talk about the technical aspects of learning something. Then you can also talk about the cultural aspects of learning something. And then you can also talk about the emotional and social aspects of learning something. All of those compartments are important. You miss out quite often on some of those by just learning something virtually off a screen. And so you want to be able to combine all of that type of learning, and education and higher education does a good job with that, I found.
absolutely,
But you
absolutely.
don't want to go
So
into massive debt over that. That's the key. You don't want to
yes,
crush yourself with debt,
yes,
because then again limits your options again. I always say debt is one of the is the new version of slavery. It ties us up in many ways and keeps you locked up. And so you don't want to create a situation for yourself where you're locked up and you're stealing your options away because you've created so much debt.
yeah, yeah. And I've been talking about something called like rebranding luxury, where I think time is more important than bags and luxury items, even though I like luxury items because I know people who have a lot of resources, it's really about the ability to be free to be able to make decisions. So I definitely agree with that. You know what I'm saying? So as we start to kind of bring like some of the conversation like to a forefront. So part of this conversation, our theme is rebrand black, and we're focused on black genius, black excellence, and black innovation. And our goal is to be able to hear from thought leaders across a wide variety of industries. And so one of the things that I want to get into is I want to get into this conversation about ownership. One of the things that I realize as we look at our community, um, we are probably in a situation from an economic standpoint where we make everything hot, we don't own anything, and so I think it's really time for us to really reevaluate what's important and get into more of an ownership mentality versus just a consumer's mentality. And so I'm really interested in kind of getting your thoughts, and then we'll get into, I mean, probably some Hollywood stuff, but I'd love to be able to get your thoughts as it relates back to ownership in our community and us maybe taking a little more control of that.
Absolutely. So, I speak about ownership all the time. If we are actually going to really deal with this incredible wealth gap that we see, we have to focus on ownership, institutional ownership, individual business ownership, entrepreneurship, ownership of your IP, ownership of your product, ownership of the institution, and even owning the supply chain, and distribution. And so what does that mean? It means that all along the process of creating something of value, whether we're talking about cultural, whether we're talking about a product, whether we're talking about a business or a platform, there are multiple ways that money either gets recirculated within the ecosystem or it exits the ecosystem. And the only way that we can really start to deal with this wealth gap is that we recirculate dollars within our community and within our institutions. And what does that look like? Well, here's the deal. In 1863, when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, Black people in America owned a little less than 1% of American wealth. In December 2020, Black people own a little less than 1% of American wealth. And you say, well, Hill, how could that be? We have Ken Chenault's, former chairman of American Express. We got Michael Jordan. We got Oprah. We got Robert Smith. We got Barack Obama was president. So it just goes to show you that you could have created a few, we got Jay-Z, you could have created a few billionaires. You could have different political folks in power. You could have different tax policies. You could have all of these different things. And our foundational wealth and cross-generational wealth or lack thereof in our community has not changed since slavery was ended. Why? Because of lack of institutional ownership. Just because you get paid something to do something and you don't own it, and you don't own the ecosystem, it's extremely difficult to build wealth. And we see it time and time again. And so what does that mean? What it means is that, and I'll give you a quick example of this recently, of the way we have to think larger, more expansively, but also think a little slower, be a little bit more patient. What do I mean? Sometimes you can't take the fast money. You have to actually wait in terms of institutional ownership because it requires investment. And I was in a clubhouse room where you had Royce the 5'9", you had DJ Clue was in there, you had Mano, you had 21 Savage, you had all these new as well as legendary hip hop artists, King Los, a number of guys. And I made the point that I was willing to put up 6 to 7 figures because they kept talking about Spotify and they kept talking about DSPs and they kept talking about how, we can't, we're just getting barely paid. And I said, hold up. I said, if you took everybody in this clubhouse right now, and each of you pegged 5 other artists that you are tight with. So 21 Savage, you're tight with this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. Royce the 5'9", you're tight with this person, this person. If you took all and we created something, I put up cash to develop the code, we could create a platform that would be just as powerful as Spotify. Oh, well, they tried it with Tidal and that's Black owned. And so, hold on. I'm not even talking about Tidal. I'm talking about, you guys were talking about Spotify. And then we could expand that to the entertainment business. Because I said, I know you guys are focused on music, but the market cap of Spotify is $63 billion. The market cap of Netflix is $222 billion. So the entertainment business combined, you could take Netflix and Spotify and put them together, that's $300 billion in market cap. We could create that, fellas.
You know what? And you bring up such a powerful point, because I think if you look at all the platforms, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Clubhouse, whether it's OnlyFans, like all of those platforms, I think OnlyFans, I don't know if they secured 300 million and they generated 400 million, some number like that. But when you start to look at the people that make those platforms hot, they look like me and you. But the problem is that if you look at the cap table of those actual platforms, we're typically nowhere to be found, but we blow that stuff up. And so now we have to really reconfigure just the way we think about that.
Watch what I'm about to say, Hajj. In almost every area, we are the user-generated content. We are the user-generated content in sports. We're the ones. We're creating the games, but we don't own the games. We don't own the arenas. We don't own the teams. We're creating the music. We're creating the hottest shows. We're the ones that make, like you said, Twitter hot. We're the ones that make any platform hot, Instagram, whatever. All of that, the culture. And folks sit back and love it because they're like, we own the platform. They're doing all the work, creating all the content that's hot, And we don't even have to create the content. In fact, we don't even have the skills to create the content, but we own it. And we're the ones that ultimately benefit. And then we're going to make sure that there's a few individual outliers who are running towards success so that that dream stays alive. So you got the cats who are saying, well, man, I just could be like a billionaire like Jay-Z and get a wife like Beyonce. I just, you know, and so you keep that dream alive. I could just be like LeBron, you know, and obviously people are becoming more and more conscious. So I think that we're there. But here's the deal. Technology is in a place where the barriers to entry have really come down. And this is the moment where we need to take advantage of this collectively. You know, that's why as soon as you called me and said, hey, Hill, will you do this? The answer has to be yes. There's no choice.
Yeah.
If you ask me to do something, we have to work together collectively to support each other to make what I'm trying to say work. Because I can't own it on my own, because I can't build it on my own. But if other people join me in this journey and we support each other, it works. But at the same time, we're so used to feeling like that crabs in the barrel mentality often, like, well, there's only one LeBron, there's only one Jordan, there's only one Jay-Z. And then you start competing, you know, you start competing and warring. I mean, literally, think about this with the young rappers right now. They are dying. I mean, literally, they are dying actively. It's the most dangerous time to be a rapper, not because of gang beef, but because of Instagram beef. And because and so many, you know, Pop Smoke, you know, I mean, you go down the line. I mean, it's tragic. It breaks my heart.
Yeah, and I think that there, even as I start to look at that kind of stuff, there is like, and it's not just a conspiracy theory, but there's an actual strategy and a plan to be able to have us focus on stuff like that. So even when I think about the stereotypes, and so back in the day when you had the Black Panthers and you had like an image of, you know, doing the right thing in your community, right? Then came the, all right, let's have a TV show and let's focus on Black males being pimps, Black males being in the street. So
that's exactly true. And that's when we're talking about the entertainment business. There's no question. This is how this conversation started on Clubhouse, actually, because King Los came on and made the comment, you know, don't you, I guess he was talking about, like, you know, what gets pushed. And because you got to remember, back in the day, there was a window of time when Public Enemy, KRS-One, you had that brother Paris out of Oakland. This was all extreme pro-Black strength, self-determination hip hop. And to your point, Hajj, what got pushed right on the heels of that? They're like, let's stop that and let's start pushing NWA messaging. Let's start pushing, make sure you're dogging out women and negative references to Black women and females in the music, drug culture, kill each other culture, and pimping and hoeing and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And people think that that's just the expression of the culture. No, that's the expression of the culture in certain ways, but it's what gets pushed out to the culture. Because I'm very clearly about this, and this holds true for internet activity and internet platforms as well as entertainment. They're not benign. The supply demand thing doesn't work when people say, well, I'm just giving the people what they need or what they want. That's what I'm giving. No, in entertainment, if you give somebody enough of something, they start to want it. It's called a Geffen good in economics. If you want to study economics, look up a Geffen good. A Geffen good is when you start giving people more of it, they want it more. Now, we understand how that works in drug culture. Obviously, you get people addicted. It happens in prescription meds. There's this, multiple billions of dollars of lawsuits around prescription painkillers, right? And how doctors were giving it out, right? Writing those prescriptions, because the more you write. The same happens in entertainment. And watch this study that just happened. They did a study because they've been forcing auto-tune down people's necks so much. they had people listen to Aretha Franklin. They didn't tell her it was Aretha Franklin. Just listen to this person sing. And then they had somebody listen, to a good singer that was on auto tune. They said, well, which voice is better? People have gotten their ears have gotten so tuned to auto tune that they thought or said that auto tune voice is better than Aretha Franklin, which blows your mind. But that's what happens with entertainment. If you give somebody more of it, they start wanting more because that's what they become familiar with. That's what the culture is. And we have to understand that and then leverage that for our benefit of our community and leverage our dollars within our community.
And I think that's a very powerful point. And, and I never thought about it from that standpoint, you know what I'm saying? Because I'll look at something like, well, Soul Plane got funded, but Red Tails had to get funded by George Lucas. He had to use his own money or private money or whatever it was. But it's like, but that's a strong, you know what I'm saying? So very, very interesting. So as we kind of dial into the industry stuff, so when I think about you and I think about the characters and the characters and how they're depicted, it seems like you're very thoughtful as it relates back to the imagery that you want to be associated with as it relates back to the project that you're connected to. So I would love to be able to get some insight from you in terms of, because I'm sure people bring stuff to you all the time and you have to kind of figure out, okay, does this fit? Do I want to be connected to it or not? You know what I'm saying? So I'm very interested in that.
So my thought process is more about the project than the character. And what I mean by that, I never, as an actor, you never judge a character. And in fact, I enjoy playing the so-called bad guy more because I don't get that role very often, right? Okay. I guess I don't strike fear in people's hearts when so, whatever. Point being, it's about the project, though, the message of the project and the individual role. And if I believe the message of the project is hurtful or deleterious to our community or to individuals in our community or to us or Black men, the project, not the character, then I won't do it. Give you an example. I was giving a speech one time and I mentioned this, or somebody asked me that same question, and somebody, how they got the people who always want to try to hate. She said, "Hell, Harper, you're a liar." I said, "What, ma'am?" She said, "I saw this movie you did called In Too Deep. You played a drug dealer. And drugs are killing our community, And I said, ma'am, look at the project. I said, yeah, I played a drug dealer and I loved that role. I had such a good time because I never get to play those roles. And but the message of the project. So for instance, I got offered that film, and as I was reading it, I knew that if by the end, if my character and LL Cool J's character didn't have some comeuppance or penalty for what we were doing in the community, and the guy who was doing the right thing, which in this case was Omar Epps' character, I actually feel really bad for Omar Epps because Kanye did a song and he said, "I'm in too deep like Mekhi Phife." And I was like, it wasn't Mekhi, it was Omar. So that's a whole thing, one of those lyrics. But Omar played the lead of that film, and he ended up with getting us he was doing the right thing. We end up getting our penalty, and he got the girl. So the overarching message, which was Nia Long, amazing. So the overarching message, if it's not deep, if you unpack the messages, if you do the right thing, you win and you get the girl. That's the message of that movie, right? If you do the right thing in the community, if you stop the drug dealers, you win. It's the right thing to do. That's the right message. Now, if that movie would have ended with me and LL in the hot tub, clicking Cristal, saying, "It's all good, baby. We good." Then I don't do that movie, because that's not the message that I want to convey as a project. As an actor, I don't judge anybody for taking roles, but there's plenty of roles that I've passed on in my career that would have made me much more famous and much more money, but I couldn't stomach the message of the project.
Yeah.
And these are projects that extremely mainstream, have done well,
Mm-hmm.
actors have been celebrated for, but I can't stand them. I literally
Yeah.
can't stand them. And there are a number of them. But you know, that's just me. And I'll never say who and what, because I'm not in someone else's, you know, life. I can't say why they took a project. And they may not see it the same way I do. There's a lot of people who don't see certain things the way I do, and that's okay. That's their prerogative. That's what entertainment's about, where we all can see it the way we individually want to see it.
Yeah. I can definitely appreciate that. You know, at least, you know what I'm saying, like you have a perspective, and values are a very important part of what we do. So now if we look at, so now, you know what I'm saying, so let's kind of talk a little bit like about your son. So, you know what I'm saying, you are a public figure. People know who you are, but now how do you, as a Black father, and again, like we already kind of set the standard up front in terms of like all the fathers that I know are present, are strong Black fathers. What is your message to your son today in light of everything that's happening from a social injustice standpoint, the ownership kind of thing? What kind of things are you trying to imprint in your son, who is this blank canvas, who has his entire life ahead of him in terms of preparing him for the real world?
You know, it's really difficult, because it wasn't until I became a father of a young son that I really realized how much subconscious bombardment we
Mm-hmm.
have in this country about our worth as Black boys, Black men. What do I mean by that? Everywhere you look and turn, you very rarely see young brothers who are the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't see it. You see white boys, you see other folks, you even see many, to be quite honest, and this is not to cause any division, you see many young Black girls like Doc McStuffins, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. But you don't see young Black boys in these leadership positions. And then you get, like, let's say a children's Bible. And I literally, this is true, I went into the children's Bible and I used a marker to make the character's skin brown, you know, because they had, and you know, make Jesus brown. I mean, Jesus had hair like wool. Jesus from Africa. Jesus looked like us, man. You know, and so I wanted him to see that, and he took it and he wiped it off. He said, "Daddy, why are you, you know, writing in my book?" And then he also said, "Daddy, how come the police want to kill Black people?" You know, he says things like this, and so, you know, our young people are extremely perceptive, and they don't see enough images. Now, I try to do, every morning, we do sets of affirmations, because I believe affirmations, you know, he kind of ends up going through them like, you know, he gets used to saying them all, but we do, you know, this morning we did them, you know, I am bold, handsome, and brilliant. I make him repeat each one 3 times. I am bold, handsome, and brilliant. I'm bold, handsome, and brilliant. Quiet strength is sometimes the most powerful. Quiet strength is sometimes the most powerful. Quiet strength is sometimes the most powerful. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. My outside light shines from within. My outside light shines from within. We got a bunch of them. I mean,
Okay.
we got a bunch of them. And certainly affirmations just don't get the job done. But I'm trying to do anything and everything I can to retool his subconscious,
Mm-hmm.
so that he sees himself as a king, a young king,
Mm-hmm.
prince, and
Yes.
unstoppable and powerful and intelligent and amazing. And like I said, I want him to be him, whatever he decides, whatever journey he's on, whatever he wants to do. And I just want to set the table and set a solid foundation so he can do whatever. And part of that is fighting the bombardment that we have in our culture, that runs counter to positive imagery of young Black boys. And it is there, man, because I search out for stuff. I literally search out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and part of what I realize, it's about story too, because
Mm-hmm.
affirmations are about trying to just remind someone of, their self-talk and self-tape, but you want to see yourself in stories. And that's the tough thing. For instance, there's a lot of kind of positive affirmation books like I'm a great young Black boy and I'm a king and I'm born from pharaohs and I'm a descendant of this. But there are not as many storybooks, like just this young kid named Jace or Jason, and he goes to school and then he runs into this issue and he solves this problem. Those are the types of things that I wish we had a lot more of. And certainly as a writer, I've thought, well, maybe I should write these stories, which perhaps I will come out with some children's books. But, at the same time, I'm attempting to do things in other areas in terms of technology that hopefully will achieve the same thing as a book.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think, you bring up like some powerful points. So as we start to bring stuff home, I want to hit a couple more points. I would love to get your perspective as it relates back to representation in Hollywood. I was reading an article in USA Today, and it said 83% of Black Americans believe that the media perpetrates negative stereotypes of Black people. So I would love to be able to kind of get your thoughts as it relates back to the narrative that we see on the screen and how we can, if you agree with, if you disagree with that narrative, what can we do to change the narrative that we have internally, and then how the world interacts with us as Black people.
As it relates to the entertainment business, it goes back to the point we were making earlier about ownership. Since we historically have owned very little of the actual institutions in entertainment, yet have provided most of, a lot of the greatest content, we need to flip that paradigm. And like I said, technology offers us the opportunity to do it. Tyler Perry has shown us that you can own, and you can do extremely well owning. And there's a number of other artists that are owning their masters, controlling their master. I mean, Bob Dylan just sold his entire catalog for what was it, $600 million to a music publishing company just last week, I believe. So owning your material, owning your masters, owning your IP, owning your characters you create, owning the distribution of it, all of that is critical. I mean, recently we saw Dave Chappelle talking about, listen, I don't own Chappelle's show, even though my name's on it and I'm all through it. I don't have any ownership of it, so please don't support it. So that's a wonderful lesson to say, hey, it's better to take a step back, because remember, Dave was offered $50 million to keep doing the show. And he said no. He said no, because the show didn't sit right with him and he realized he didn't own it. So, but now he's worth so much more than that. And he owns everything he does now. Right? And so he took a step back to take 20 steps forward. And that's what we have to do in some cases. Don't take that quick deal. Don't take that check as that quick money and say, hey, we're going to invest, or take that money and say, I'm going to take a high percentage of this and invest it in ownership, either someone else owning an institution or myself creating the institution with other people and bringing other people in. I'm going to make a big announcement next year in the first quarter about a platform that I'm launching that I'm going to need people to come in with me and support, but I'm going to be putting investing significant resources into the platform, because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm not just out here just saying we got to own, and then you say, well, Harper, what institution are you on? I am building an institution, an ecosystem of ownership for Black people, starting Q1 of next year, and
that's going to be amazing.
Hope to announce it during Black History Month, and launch it during Black History Month of 2020.
That's amazing. I thought you were going to break some news on the I'm at the Brand Camp conference, but we look forward to hearing the actual message, next year for sure. So let's kind of close with this. And this is a two-part question, because there's a few things I want to unpack. So I want to make sure people can get connected to if there's any other projects or things that you're working on. And I know you're doing a lot of stuff in Detroit. You have a coffee shop. So I want you to be able to kind of talk about that, and then kind of end on, how would you frame the term Black or Black culture?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, downtown Detroit, I have a coffee shop called Roasting Plant. We fresh roast the beans right there. Please support Black business. We're losing money. We're bleeding money every month right now, to be quite honest. This is a extremely tough time for small business. And we're keeping our doors open because it's important to keep the young people that are there employed. I truly believe that. And so we're losing money. So it's costing me money to stay open, just because we make our money by the people who work in the offices in downtown, and no one's working downtown. So if you just happen to be downtown and come get a cup of coffee during the day, because it's you're supporting a business, and that's real. I am launching the beginning of next year, a new podcast. I always talk about how there's no Black person I know who's not a multi-hyphenate, that doesn't have multiple streams of income, that doesn't do multiple things. And I call them commas. We all got these commas, and we all want commas in our bank accounts as well. That's what
I like that.
That's what cross-generational wealth is all about. So I'll be launching a podcast. Look out for it. It's going to be dealing with commas, and we're going to be talking about that, breaking those things down, and still doing the Good Doctor, which is a blessing. And here's a little bit of breaking news. So we want to here's breaking news. Now, I'm not going to say what the platform I'm launching next year is, what it's called yet. That'll be when I do the press release. And so, but people, be on the lookout for it, please, because it's going to be an ecosystem of solutions, and all about wealth building for an ecosystem of issues and problems. But as far as Detroit goes, breaking news, I'm going to be opening up a private museum in Detroit with my art collection. And I'm looking to open it. This is the breaking news piece. Haven't put it out in a press release yet. Haven't done anything. I'm looking to open it the weekend of October 1st and 2nd, which is Detroit homecoming of 2021.
Wow.
So we'll hopefully have a big event that weekend that'll represent the opening of this museum in Detroit, where every day young people from Detroit public schools can come and look at art made by us, for us, and also create their own art in an area that we're going to create. So, I love art. And right now, we as Black folks are creating the best contemporary art in the world. If you look at the list of the artists that have progressed the most in terms of value, and in terms of highest quality and the most exclusive, it's African-American and African diaspora artists creating contemporary art right now. But if you ask 99% of most Black folk out there, including our young people, ask them who Mickalene Thomas is, ask them who Rashid Johnson is, ask them who Derek Adams, who Kehinde Wiley, who Amy Sherrill, who Kerry James Marshall, who Nick Cave, any of those names I just mentioned, these are some of the greatest artists in the world. Carol Walker, on down the line. Yet most of us don't even know they exist, right? And we need to know, we need to see their work, be inspired by their work, and then create businesses, ideas, creativity out of the inspiration. And that's changing. That's a game changing. That's rebranding. That's doing the whole thing that you're talking about. And hopefully next time you do the brand camp, you'll do it in the museum. How about that?
Know what? I would love that. Let's make that happen.
We'll make it happen. And I won't even charge you that much.
Okay. Cool. He's a businessman. He said, I'm still going to charge you. It's not going to be free. We got costs. And you know what? I totally understand that. And I have no problem with that.
I saw that pause. You're like, oh, what?
No, it's all good.
I'm messing with you, man. I got you. I got your back.
No, but I would love to be able to do something there. And if you have any space on the podcast that's coming up, I probably don't have as many commas in my bank account as you do at this point in time. I'm trying to get there, but I would love to be considered and to get on that short list.
Absolutely. We want you. It's all about different commas. It's not just about bank account. Bank account
Okay.
commas are important, but it's
Yeah.
about being a great father, comma, a great actor, comma, a great author, comma, a great innovator, comma, a great entrepreneur, a great giver, philanthropist, being healthy, comma, exercising the body, comma. We need all these commas, because that's how you build a truly wealthy life. That's the key.
Gotcha. This has been an amazing conversation here. I appreciate you carving out time. I know we're in different time zones right now, so I appreciate this. If somebody wanted to follow you online, where should we direct them to?
Just go to @HillHarper on Instagram and @HillHarper on Twitter. You can DM me on Instagram. I try to get to as many as I can. I can't get to them all, but if you hit me repeatedly, I'll probably come across it at some point. And listen, we're all in this together. Dr. King said we're all tied together in a single garment of mutual destiny. That means my destiny is inextricably linked with Hajj. His destiny and our destiny is inextricably linked with anybody who's watching now. We're all in this together collectively. And if we actually hold hands, support each other, we all can rise together. And that will happen if we do it together.
All right, well, Hill, I want to thank you. So this has been a conversation around Rebrand Black. We want to thank Cadillac, which is our sponsor. So we're super excited about this time. I look forward to seeing you in the real world. I know we're doing a lot of virtual stuff now, but
let me say one thing real quick, about Cadillac.
Yeah.
So I just got to drive an Escalade, brand new Escalade, and man, beautiful. A fantastic car, fantastic engineering, just fantastic. So couldn't be more proud.
Yeah. I mean, Cadillac is an amazing brand. They have some really solid products. So I love driving Cadillac myself. I'm an XT5 myself, so a great vehicle. So cool.
Awesome.
All right, Hill. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Hajj. I appreciate you. All right.
Okay. Yep. All right.